Welcome to Playas Guide. So this video is about what you can collect in 2019 game-wise that's fairly cheap. So I think right now the cheapest console to collect for is Xbox 360. And that's because the Xbox 360 is not quite as popular as the PS3. The PS3 I'm going to say is number two. That is also a very cheap system to collect for. So if you're out game hunting, um, look look at these games, look in these sections. Some of them at some game stores are being marked down to $1 or $2, or they're offering a deal where it's 2 or 3 games for like $5 or $6. And there's a lot of great games on these systems, and if you're collecting for them, it's very cheap right now. They're trying to liquidate their stock because nobody is playing these games. A lot of active gamers are playing modern consoles like the PS4 or the Xbox One, and those have both been out for a while now. There's talks of a PS5. Most people don't even have 4K TVs yet, so yeah, I don't think there's really a need for newer consoles at this point. But yeah, stores are trying to get rid of those games because chances are, if you're a fan of any series, there's already been a sequel or two released, and you're looking back at that last generation where if you haven't played whatever Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed or popular games that were released during that system's lifetime, yeah, they've already had at least one installment to almost any series. Those games are going to be a dime a dozen. So game stores want to get rid of that stuff. Most of them have an abundance of it, unless they're like a brand new game store that opened. Then they still probably are getting quite a bit of people coming through the door trying to get rid of that stuff themselves. So if you're looking to get into collecting and you're looking to get into something cheap, that's the route to go. Especially if you're looking for any sort of like complete library or to have a really large library. Wii Wii games. There's a lot of games, so it's going to be tough if you're going for a complete library. But there's Wii games are pretty cheap. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of shovelware, but because of that, there's also usually very large sections of Wii games, and you can usually find a gem or two if you're willing to, sift through whatever the game store around whatever the game stores around you have. Like there's so much crap that I think there's quite a few good games that kind of go under the radar that you'll be able to find. But you gotta do a little bit of research to find out what those are. The nice thing about a lot of these games I'm talking about is they are cheap enough that you can take a gamble, and if it's hit or miss and you spend $10 and get 4 Wii games and they're all crap, I mean, at least you might be able to take it back to the store, or trade it in somewhere or sell it and get your $10 back and reinvest it into more Wii games, and hopefully some of them are good. Another console, Wii U. Wii U, for a while there, was kind of hard to come by. People weren't really getting rid of their Wii U's or their Wii U games. They were holding on to them, but not anymore. Now I'm going into game stores and I'm seeing a pretty good selection of Wii U stuff. And the Switch has been out now for a while. All all the good games on the Wii U, or a lot of them, have been re-released on the Switch. Wii U is great to collect for because the library is just over 160 games. So it's a small library. If you're going for a complete Wii U collection, it's easy to do right now, so get started. When I got started collecting NES, I was buying games because they were being liquidated out of video stores. They were cheap. I was buying brand new sealed games. I didn't think anything about it. I was tearing them open and playing them. I kept some of the boxes. I wasn't, one of those. I kept a lot of packaging for certain like games when I was younger. So I'm glad I did that and still have some of that. But it wasn't because I had the foresight. I just liked to have it. I don't know. I didn't have the foresight that this stuff was going to become valuable. I want to look for something that you can go into a game store and they want to get rid of it. There's no value in it for them anymore. That's where you're going to find the value for you. You're going to be able to pick up some good games for cheap, and you're going to be able to get into collecting. So that's what I did with NES and Super Nintendo. That was a different time though, because things like I'm talking about, like sealed games and boxes, it didn't have value. It was packaging. You threw it away. You know what I mean? Most people didn't hold on to that stuff. For me, I only had a few new games, so it was easy to hold on to those boxes. But when I was buying used games, I really didn't care. Like, if unless there was no price difference, obviously I would go for the CIB or new. But if it was significantly cheaper, which it usually is for a loose copy, then that's just what I would pick up. And yeah, again, the prices on NES then were a lot like the prices on the PS3 and Xbox 360 that we're seeing right now. That being said, right now in 2019, NES, the prices have dipped a bit. There's not really been much of an incline, except for a couple of the sort of like hidden rare games, and I might get into another like vlog episode thing like this where I can talk about some of the hidden rares, like Race America, that are really hard to find, and some of them haven't really gone up in price, or are going up in price because people who are really actively collecting NES and looking to get a complete NES library are picking those games up now, and there's not as many of them to go around as you might think. For the most part, the prices have really cooled off, and you can start to, get into collecting that again if you put it on the back burner, or you never got into it because you were intimidated by some of the high prices. Now, the expensive games, they're always going to be expensive. Like the super rare games and some of the more popular titles that are uncommon, you're just going to have to bite the bullet if you want those. But if you're just looking to get into collecting and playing some different games, it's a good time to start collecting NES again. A lot of these older consoles, they're not that popular, so to collect for them is pretty cheap. Unless you're going for the super rare stuff, then you're not going to pay a lot. Like, you could probably walk into a game store, ask them if they have any Atari games. A lot of them don't even put them out, and they'll have like a shoebox or a crate, and you can just sift through that and pick them up for $1 or $2 a piece, or maybe even less. You can just buy the whole shoebox off them and walk out the door for $20 and go spend the rest of your afternoon playing a bunch of games that are probably pretty shitty, but you don't know until you play them. I've never been big on Atari, but I recently have played a few Atari games that I enjoyed playing. So that is what you should look at collecting in 2019, because those prices have cooled off. There's some other stuff like Game Boy Advanced or regular Game Boy that I don't see it. It just is what it is. So if you're looking to get into that, the DS is pretty cheap if you're looking for handheld stuff. Game Gear, again, another one. Like, the handhelds are kind of in their own league where prices fluctuate a little, but they're not taking a huge dip, and they're not spiking all of a sudden for the most part. So anyways, I hope this video helped you. It maybe gave you a little bit of focus or some insight, or you already know this stuff and you just wanted to hear what I had to say. If that's the case, and you have anything to add, there is a comment section, so feel free to drop something there. And well, that's it, Playas.